Diane Keaton spent her final months out of the public eye. The Annie Hall actress has died in California. A family spokesperson confirmed to People October 11th she was 79.
So, even when I was young, I was way into fashion.
That was the beginning of my response to wearing whatever the hell I liked.
They say Hollywood hides its darkest truths behind a smile, and Diane Keaton's final message might be proof of exactly that. We all know how this town operates. When a beloved icon suddenly vanishes from the spotlight, there's usually something much darker happening behind those mansion gates than anyone wants to admit.
No one ever wears it, and I'm beginning to think I'm odd. Do you think?
You're beginning to think that?
On October 11, 2025, the entertainment world lost one of its most enigmatic stars when Diane Keaton was found unresponsive in her California home at the age of 79. But here's where things get absolutely twisted. The Los Angeles Fire Department confirmed they rushed a 79-year-old woman to a nearby hospital, but the cause of death still completely unknown. No signs of trauma, no official statement, and no hint of what really happened inside that Brentwood mansion. Just deafening silence. And if you know anything about Hollywood, you know that silence is never accidental. When the industry wants to bury something, they're masters at making information disappear faster than a career after one wrong tweet.
The actress Diane Keaton has died at the age of 79. This is being reported by People magazine.
But here's what's got insiders absolutely buzzing. Just weeks before her death, Diane had reportedly recorded something, a message so cryptic and emotional that it even left her closest friends completely speechless. Was it a confession about the industry's darkest secrets? A warning about what happens to stars who refuse to play the game? Or Hollywood's last unsent love letter to one of its most misunderstood icons? The timing of everything is what makes this whole situation feel orchestrated. We're talking about a woman who spent decades navigating Hollywood's most treacherous waters, who survived when others didn't, who knew where all the bodies were buried. And suddenly, right when she starts pulling away from the spotlight, canceling appearances, avoiding paparazzi, boom, she's gone. Here's where the cover-up gets really obvious. Within hours of her passing, a private request for discretion went out to media outlets across the industry. Some sources say her house was immediately sealed off with limited access, even for people who had known her for decades. Others whisper that first responders arrived before anyone called 911, a detail that has conspiracy theorists working overtime. The family statement was textbook Hollywood damage control. Brief, emotionless, and tightly controlled. Her family has asked for privacy in this moment of great sadness. Sound familiar? It's the same sanitized language they use every time someone dies under questionable circumstances in this town. Privacy from what exactly? What are they trying to keep hidden? Because when you've got a legendary actress who's been carrying Hollywood secrets for over 5 decades and she suddenly disappears after recording some mysterious final message, that's not natural causes, that's the industry protecting itself.
It's no secret that after Rachel McAdams broke through with her 1-2 punch of Mean Girls and The Notebook in 2004, she was very picky about the projects that she chose because she was actively trying to avoid superstardom.
And that message? The one that supposedly contains her real thoughts about Hollywood, about the people she worked with, about what really goes on behind closed doors? Nobody's talking about it. Which means it's either been buried forever, or it's about to change everything we thought we knew about Tinseltown's golden age. The real red flags started appearing months before anyone suspected anything was wrong. You see, in Hollywood, when a major star starts pulling back from the spotlight, there's always a calculated reason behind it. And Diane's behavior in those final months, it was textbook damage control preparation. Industry insiders who've seen this pattern before started noticing the subtle withdrawals first. Canceled appearances that were explained away as scheduling conflicts. Paparazzi shots becoming increasingly rare, even though she used to be spotted regularly around Brentwood walking her dog. When was the last time you saw a candid photo of Diane Keaton? Think about it.
She looked healthy. This is okay, People is reporting this exclusively, and all that they say is further information is not available at this time.
The most telling sign was how she started avoiding events where she might face unexpected questions. You know how Hollywood works. Veteran stars like Diane are usually eager to do press circuits, award shows, and industry tributes. These people live for the spotlight, for the validation, for staying relevant. But suddenly, Diane was nowhere to be found. Friends who had known her for decades started describing her as tired, distracted, distant. But here's the thing about Hollywood friendships. They're often built on professional convenience rather than genuine intimacy. So when these same friends claim that they didn't know what was wrong, it makes you wonder if they were being deliberately kept in the dark or if they were just protecting themselves now that she's gone. The house sale was the biggest smoking evidence. In March 2025, Diane shocked everyone by listing her beloved Brentwood estate, the same home she had lovingly restored over 8 years and once said she'd never leave. This wasn't just any property. This was her sanctuary, the place where she wrote an entire book called The House That Pinterest Built. For someone to abandon their dream home without explanation, that's not downsizing, that's running.
After she decided to sell her beloved dream home in Los Angeles, a move that surprised many of her friends and fans.
And here's what's really suspicious. Immediately after her death, sources claim the house had been sealed off with limited access, even for people who had been close to her for years. Why would a family need to control access to a property unless there was something inside they didn't want discovered? The pattern is classic Hollywood cover-up. Create distance, control the narrative, and make sure nobody gets too close to the truth until it's too late to matter. But to understand what really drove Diane to that final cryptic message, you have to go back to where Hollywood's problem against her first began. Because this industry has a twisted way of taking young, vulnerable talent and systematically breaking them down until they become perfect, controllable products. It was 1968 when Diane was cast in Broadway's Hair, and that's when the real nightmare started. The director allegedly told her straight to her face that she'd get the lead role if she lost weight. Think about that for a second. A powerful man in the entertainment industry using a young woman's career dreams as leverage to control her body. Sound familiar? It should, because this is Hollywood's oldest playbook. That single moment set everything in motion. Diane later admitted in her memoir that she became a master at hiding what came next, a devastating battle with bulimia that she described as a life built around perfectionism, secrecy, and shame. The kind of prison that Hollywood practically worships because it creates stars who are easier to manipulate and control.
First, and I certainly can't say that I enjoy directing. No, it's very hard. You know, it's not so easy.
For years, Diane lived this double existence. To the world, she was the charming, quirky actress with the infectious laugh and signature style. But behind closed doors, she was trapped in what she called a mental illness, one that consumed her every waking moment. She once confessed to eating 20,000 calories a day, a dark cycle of control and chaos that nearly destroyed her from the inside out. Here's where Hollywood's cruelty becomes absolutely sickening. Years later, when Diane was being publicly celebrated at the American Film Awards, her longtime collaborator and ex-boyfriend Woody Allen decided to make her eating disorder into a punchline. In front of a room full of industry elites, he joked, "I didn't know she was bulimic. If I knew she was throwing it up, I could have taken her to Pizza Hut."
But she did make an interesting Freudian slip. She, when we started going out, she meant to refer to me as a talented young director. But instead, she called me a stepping stone.
The audience laughed. Diane laughed. But the people who knew her said she was deeply shaken by it. One insider claimed she never forgot that moment, how her most vulnerable traumatic experience became entertainment for the same industry that had caused it in the first place. This is the psychological mistreatment Hollywood specializes in. They create the trauma, then mock you for having it. They demand perfection, then shame you for the methods you use to achieve it. And when you do finally break down, they act surprised and offer their thoughts and prayers while covering up whatever really happened. That eating disorder, that need for control, that constant battle between perfectionism and self-destruction, it never truly left Diane. And now, decades later, some believe those same destructive patterns may have returned in her final months, leading to whatever truth she felt compelled to record in that mysterious last message. But Diane's relationship with Hollywood's psychological cruelty goes even deeper than her personal trauma, because she made the fatal mistake of standing by someone the industry decided to sacrifice. And in Hollywood, loyalty to the wrong person can destroy everything you've built in a matter of hours. When the Me Too movement swept through the entertainment industry, like a cleansing fire, most celebrities quickly distanced themselves from anyone with even a whisper of controversy. It was survival mode. Save your own career first, ask questions later. But Diane Keaton, she chose loyalty over self-preservation, and that decision may have ultimately cost her everything.
And how scary it is, and how sweet it is, and how beautiful, but how we're all so terrified of it, and especially as we get older, that we build these walls around ourselves, and, it's harder.
In 2018, while the rest of Hollywood was frantically scrubbing their social media and issuing carefully worded statements, Diane posted something that shocked the industry. Woody Allen is my friend, and I continue to believe him. She even linked to an old 60 Minutes interview where Allen denied the allegations. One tweet, 24 words, career elimination. Overnight, Diane transformed from feminist icon to public enemy. The woman who had spent decades representing independence and self-respect suddenly became the face of denial for a movement built on exposing mistreatment. Reddit threads exploded with thousands of comments calling her tone deaf, out of touch, and even complicit. Former fans who had grown up idolizing her felt personally betrayed. Here's what most people don't understand about Hollywood's revenge system. They don't destroy you publicly. They do it quietly, behind closed doors, where no one can prove anything. Industry sources claim that after Diane's tweet, certain doors just stopped opening for her. Projects she might have been considered for suddenly went to other actresses. Phone calls that used to be returned immediately went to voicemail. It was professional exile disguised as natural career decline. The psychological toll was devastating. Friends described watching Diane transform from someone who had always been confident in her choices to someone who seemed genuinely confused by the backlash. She had defended a friend, something that used to be considered honorable, and suddenly she was being treated like a pariah in her own industry. But if you think Hollywood's betrayal was the darkest chapter in Diane's story, you're dead wrong. Because the real nightmare that haunted her final years wasn't about career destruction, it was about watching her own mind potentially follow the same terrifying path that had already destroyed the person she loved the most.
I was an ordinary woman, but I had an enormous amount of will. That my mother gave me that will, and I think I've done a lot with what I've got.
For 15 agonizing years, Diane watched her beloved mother, Dorothy Hall, slowly disappear into the fog of Alzheimer's disease. She called it the longest goodbye, and those who knew her say that trauma never left her. This wasn't just losing a parent, this was watching someone's entire identity, their memories, their very essence get systematically erased piece by piece.
Well, I really regret that I didn't say to my mother many things that I wish I had said to her face.
Diane poured that pain into her memoir, desperately trying to rebuild the pieces of her mother's life using old journals and faded photographs. But here's what terrifies anyone who's witnessed Alzheimer's up close: the constant, haunting question, am I next? In those final months, whispers started circulating through Hollywood's inner circles. People who had worked with Diane for decades began noticing things: forgetfulness during conversations, canceled appearances explained away as scheduling conflicts, a general retreat from public life she had always embraced, the kind of subtle warning signs that family members of Alzheimer's patients learned to recognize with chilling clarity. Industry insiders claim that Diane's mysterious final message wasn't just emotional, it was prophetic. Sources suggest she may have been experiencing early symptoms and knew exactly what was coming. Imagine the terror of feeling your own mind starting to slip, knowing you're following the same path that had already claimed your mother. This explains everything about her behavior in those final months. The sudden home sale wasn't about downsizing, it was about putting her affairs in order while she still could. The withdrawal from public life wasn't about being tired, it was about protecting her dignity before the inevitable decline became visible to the world.
I kind of knew early on that I had to make a deal with the devil, and the deal was, do I really want to pursue my goals? Because I saw that my mother wasn't able to pursue her goals while being married and a mother. Do you see what I mean?
Hollywood has a brutal history with aging stars, especially women. They worship youth and discard anyone who shows signs of vulnerability or decline. For someone like Diane, who had built her career on sharp wit and quick humor, the prospect of losing those mental faculties must have been absolutely terrifying. That final message? It may not have been a confession about Hollywood secrets at all. It may have been her desperate attempt to preserve her thoughts, her memories, and her truth before they disappeared forever into the same darkness that had claimed her mother. A race against time to record what mattered most while she still remembered what that was. Now here's where Diane's story becomes a cautionary tale about what happens when you refuse to bow down to Hollywood's mob mentality. Because defending Woody Allen didn't just damage her reputation, it triggered a professional execution that industry veterans recognize as the modern version of the old Hollywood blacklist. You see, Hollywood has perfected the art of destroying careers without leaving fingerprints. They don't send out memos or make public announcements. Instead, they use what insiders call the Whisper Campaign, a network of agents, producers, and executives who quietly eliminate certain names from consideration lists. After Diane's tweet defending Woody Allen, multiple sources describe a chilling pattern. Suddenly, roles that would have been perfect for her went to other actresses. Projects she had expressed interest in moved forward without her. Casting directors who used to call her agent directly started claiming they were going in a different direction. The psychological battle was surgical. At industry events, conversations would stop when she entered the room. Longtime colleagues would offer polite smiles but avoid meaningful interaction. She wasn't officially banned from anything. She was just gradually erased from the ecosystem that had sustained her for decades.
No one ever wears it, and I'm beginning to think I'm odd. I mean, do you think?
You're beginning to think that?
Think about the mental toll of that kind of isolation. Diane had spent over 50 years building relationships in this industry, and suddenly she was being treated like a pariah for a crime of standing by a friend. For someone whose entire identity was built around being Hollywood's beloved oddball, this professional death by 1,000 cuts must have been devastating. Industry insiders claim this exclusion accelerated her physical decline. The stress of watching her career being quietly dismantled, combined with the guilt of wondering if her loyalty had been misplaced, created the perfect storm for health problems to emerge. That final message? Some believe it contained names, a list of everyone who had participated in her professional elimination. Others think it was her apology to the victims she may have unknowingly protected by defending Allen. Either way, Hollywood's revenge was complete. They had successfully destroyed one of their most beloved icons for refusing to abandon a controversial friend. And the terrifying part? Nobody will ever admit that it happened. But there's another dark secret from Diane's past that Hollywood has worked overtime to keep buried, and it involves the most vulnerable decision she ever made, becoming a single mother in her 50s, when most women her age are becoming grandmothers.
I mean, it occurred to me from the age 39 on, and why it occurred to me that late is already a problem. I mean, I wish that it had occurred to me when I was like 25, but I came to it when I came to it, and look, I was a slow developer.
In 1996 and 2001, Diane adopted 2 children, Dexter and Duke, in what the media portrayed as a heartwarming story of late-life motherhood. But industry insiders whisper about details that were carefully scrubbed from public records. Who were the biological parents? What were the circumstances that led to these specific adoptions? And why has Diane been so fiercely protective of any information about their origins? Here's what doesn't add up about Diane's romantic history. This is a woman who had high-profile relationships with Warren Beatty, Al Pacino, and Woody Allen, some of Hollywood's most powerful men. Yet after her relationship with Allen ended, she never married anyone, never had another serious public relationship. For someone who clearly wanted children, why choose single adoption over finding a partner? Hollywood sources suggest there may have been private arrangements involved in these adoptions, the kind of behind-the-scenes deals that powerful people make when pregnancies happen at inconvenient times, or when careers need to be protected. Think about how many Hollywood scandals have been quietly resolved through adoption arrangements that benefit everyone involved. The timing is particularly suspicious. Both adoptions happened during periods when Diane was experiencing major career shifts. Was she using motherhood as a way to reinvent her image after professional setbacks? Or were these adoptions connected to secrets she was keeping for other people in the industry? Late-life parenting took a brutal toll on Diane's health and energy. Raising teenagers in your 60s and 70s is exhausting under normal circumstances. But doing it as a single mother while maintaining a Hollywood career? That's a recipe for physical and mental breakdown. So what really happened to Diane Keaton in those final months? Was her mysterious message a confession about Hollywood's darkest secrets, a warning about the industry's cruel treatment of aging stars, or simply the desperate words of a woman losing her battle with her own mind. The truth died with her, buried beneath layers of Hollywood secrecy and family silence. But one thing is certain: her story exposes the brutal reality behind Tinseltown's glittering facade. What other secrets are our beloved stars taking to their graves?